your first exposure, or people being exposed to yourself, was under your Block Dodger name, wasn't it? So what year did that name come around, and what does that name mean as well?
Oh, cool. So out of the 19 years I've been doing this, Block Dodger was nearly 16 of them. Like that came around because when I was younger, I was heavily involved in illegal parties. We had a sound system of our own, which as soon as I was literally 18, as soon as I was allowed, you know, out of control of my parents, I was like, right, I'm buying an illegal sound system. I'm doing illegal raves. So that was like the first thing I saved for. And my very first sound system actually went by the name of Guillotine. We did lots of parties in East Anglia and London. And when I think I was 18, I just turned 18, just got the sound system. I didn't DJ at the time. I had already started producing, but I didn't DJ. I just did the sound system for events. But I actually worked a weekend job at the time in John Lewis in Cambridge. And I remember I was like totally hanging out my ass one day, like just, you know, gone to sit in the toilet and pretend I'm having a shit for ages, but I'm actually just nursing my hangover. And I remember sitting on the toilet thinking, I'd love to be a DJ, but what would I call myself? So the name Block Dodger came about because of the sound system name. Like, if during like the time when the guillotine came around, like during the French Revolution, I believe people who avoided having their head placed upon the block to have the head chopped off were known as block dodgers, because they escaped having their head chopped off by the guillotine. And that's where the whole idea for that name came about, because obviously I wanted to be associated with my sound system. And so I actually gained the success I gained in a more commercial and legally viable way, all stemmed from my love of illegal raves. So obviously, I think it's a natural progression, right? Because I know so many sound system owners over the last 20 years from Bristol and London, except all over the country. And it seems that, like, if you own a sound system, eventually you will end up DJing on that sound system. It's inevitable. Basically, I never set out to be a DJ, but the bug, seeing everybody else constantly doing it and having all the equipment, is like inevitable. At one point someone's like, go on, spin a few tunes, and then, you know, the next thing you know, so I used that platform I had with Guillotine, all the illegal raves. You know, it's such a big networking thing, you know. And at the time as well, like a few years later, Facebook was invented. And, you know, we were taking our sound system across the country. Every weekend we'd meet a whole new different crew. Oh, we're from Bristol, we're from Brighton, we're from Manchester. They're all putting on, you know, as what to fund the illegal raves, they were putting on local club nights. So it's like, oh, I'll book you, you book me. And then obviously with the invention of social media, it's not just like, oh, sending someone a text. I can send 200 people a message just like that. And when that started to, you know, social media really started to take off, that's when I started getting success under the name Block Dodger, because we were all collaborating with each other around the country with our sound systems. And then over the years I started to get more and more successful. And then I realized that I dropped this whole sound system thing. I sold my sound system, and I realized that I just wanted to be a DJ producer, because like that became my absolute 100% goal, and still is to this day. Like that's what I wanted to focus on.
Yeah. I mean, sound systems nowadays, if you look at the bigger picture of it, they have kind of, in a way, the majority of the big and successful ones have morphed into some of the bigger festivals. Because again, you go to Glastonbury, you go to Boomtown, it's basically, those festivals are a selection of huge sound systems, aren't they? They're all sound systems there. So obviously that's more on the legal side of it. But what we found over the last few years as well is obviously a lot of sound systems. There's a lot of bad press for it as well. I mean, not that there was ever good press for an illegal sound system, but within, let's say, within rave culture and that, it's a little bit frowned upon because of obviously the trouble that's reported there and the deaths and things like that. So is this a reality, you think? Do you think the general illegal sound system, do you think it's fading out? Do you think there is still some good ones out there? Or do you think there's anything that might need to change to revitalize it a bit?
So you just said exactly what I would come on to respond to that question, is that some of the biggest and most successful profitable companies operating legally today all started out in the same boat. as a legal sound systems. And what people need to realize is, and what, you know, governing bodies of authority of, you must be this loud, you must turn off at this time, yada yada yada, like all the legalities and formal rules behind it, they wouldn't have any of these events without the troublemakers in the or what they deem as the troublemakers in the first place. You know, I don't want to go on, you know, to talk about, you know, Boomtown's background or whatever. I'm sure they want to keep that private themselves. But the reality is, I work very closely with people at Glastonbury and Boomtown, and we all come from that special place of, you know, free underground parties in the first place. And without those special moments growing up, and, you know, maybe the odd warehouse was broken into, and, you know, the odd farmer's gate was smashed off or whatever, but without those moments, you wouldn't have these massively successful, profitable companies in the entertainment industry today, which is, you know, and because, you know, Great Britain is very famous for its events and festivals, live music, things like that. But the reality is that all those things that make the music industry great in this country is that they all came from the underground, and that's just a fact. Like, they can ignore it as much as they want and pretend that's not the case, but that is the reality.
I was saying, obviously, because of the bad press and the almost like there's almost a tarnishing to the name of illegal sound systems, because of deaths and trouble and things going on like that. Do you think there's anything they can do to actually change at the moment to kind of bring it back a little bit more again?
Do you know what? I feel, because I've seen the real underbelly of like those scenes, and the reality is that accidents are going to happen. You know, when things aren't regulated, when there's not, you know, mountains of security and police, those events have to be policed solely by the people in, you know, responsible for running it, which sometimes can get overwhelming. And it doesn't matter, you know, for example, think like I grew up around Strawberry Fair in Cambridge, very famous day festival that, you know, has, you know, it's basically a big party all day. And it doesn't matter, what I've realized is, it doesn't matter how much police you throw at that event, these things are always going to happen. And it's very easy for, you know, the media to, because what they'll say is they'll take illegal raves or illegal parties and be like, oh, look how dangerous they are, blah, blah, blah. But if you actually look at the statistics, right, the deaths will occur whether it's an illegal event or a legal event. It's just that what on paper one's, you know, one pays taxes, one doesn't. Like, but I understand that, you know, if you've never been to these kind of events before, especially the illegal ones, it, you know, it's very daunting and can seem like scary places. But the reality is that most of the people running those events, yes, troublemakers do turn up, yes, there are incidents, but the 99% of the people running those events are absolutely some of the most lovely people who you'll ever meet in your life, with some of the biggest sense of community going I've ever experienced in the events industry. So it just gets bad press because of the odd idiot, which is just the same with absolutely everything.
Yeah. No, you're fully right there, Matt. I fully agree with you with that. And there are still some good sound systems out there that are not operating at obviously a legal level that are still very good, aren't they? And,
oh, absolutely. Some of the best sounding rigs I've ever played off are definitely not supposed to be where they were at the time.
Yeah. There's a big one that's going around Spain as well that's at the moment, and that is absolutely huge. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to.
Oh man, there's so
I'll
many.
have to put a little picture of it here after I'm editing the video. But yeah, that is a huge one that's going around, and I think they've got a big scene as well out of the UK, haven't they? With the
yes, well, I mean, this country was very, you know, we have Spiral Tribe to thank in this country for, you know, bringing the whole culture of like free rave and, you know, the traveling community, things like that together. And one of my first jobs is, I was very fortunate when I left university. I studied studio engineering. I got a job with a company called Noise Control Audio, which is a speaker manufacturer. And as it turns out, that all the people that started that company, they were all from London free rave scene, and they were all old sound systems from Spiral Tribe, Bedlam, Headfuck Sound System, who were like my bosses all of a sudden, you know. And it's quite a funny relationship because, you know, we're in a professional work environment now. You know, I'm at work, it's the 9 to 5 or whatever, but the reality is that they're at heart, they were still all old ravers. Like, so it was quite hard to balance the work, you know, the work and play environment, because really they're still just big kids, but with even bigger sound systems.
Fair play. Yeah, I think the best sound system in an well, it is an illegal rave that I've played on. It is actually a Spanish one in Malaga. So
Right.
there is a promoter out there called Joker Promotions, and
Right.
he is from the UK. I believe he's from Bristol. Great guy called Chris. If you're watching this, Chris, hello, love you lots. He basically, him and his partner, they own a mountain. They own a mountain in Malaga. Basically,
Uh-huh.
it's a piece of land, and they built a house on it, and they just throw 4-day illegal raves on there. Nobody bothers them because they're miles out of the city, out
Hmm.
of Malaga. So it is just Spanish people that go to it. But I've played for them on a few times. They call it the Unstable Asylum because
Right.
it is like a horse. They've got horses there and everything. So you're raving and you're walking around. There's just horses walking around while you're raving and stuff like that. But it is, yeah. I'll show some pictures when I edit it here. But it is. That's probably one of my favourites that I played at. Just sat getting mashed up with Benny Page on a hill in Malaga. That was pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty
we
good
had
stuff.
a similar one when I was in my early 20s. I used to play annually at a free festival in Portugal called Frequency, and I went over there many times to play for them. And it was like a combination of the local Portuguese sound systems and some of the big sound systems from Bristol and London would meet up and hold this big free festival. And yeah, like I said, even though I've played all over Europe and all these amazing big clubs and legal festivals, some of the best and most memorable like feelings of community within underground music have been these illegal free festivals, because you can just there's not many legal events that can capture that kind of magic that those moments you share as the sun rises with people you just met 2 hours ago, but you're acting like you've all been hanging around the last 10 years together, and I feel like that's what those kind of music events create, that legal events definitely struggle to capture that same magic. That's my
Yeah.
opinion.
What's up, everyone? Leo HF here, the host of Yo DNB Wraps. Thank you for watching our videos. If you like what you're hearing and seeing on the channel, please make sure you're subscribing to it. Please make sure you thumbs up the videos, and more importantly, let's get some comments going as well. It really helps the channel, and in order for us to provide this content to you, we do need the channel to grow. So we can't do this without your help. Hope you enjoy the video. Speak to you soon.